Every chapter must come to its end, and this doesn't mean it's the end of the book, it just means you're on to your next chapter in life, and that's so exciting. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Emma here, and I have another Q&A for you guys today. I'd like to say thank you again to everybody who submitted questions over on my Instagram. I got so many questions this time. Like, I thought my getting to know me Q&A or my university Q&A might be more popular than this, but I did seem to get a lot of questions about work, and I know a lot of you guys are sort of in your final years of university or maybe thinking about jobs, so maybe that's why, and I'm glad because that means I'm targeting the right audience and my message is getting across to you guys, and hopefully I can help people who are like me or are like the me that I was a year or 2 years ago. Obviously, you guys now know that I've been offered another job, a new job on a graduate scheme that I'll be starting in September. So this Q&A will be a mixture of answering questions on my current job, on the job I'm going into, and just working life in general. So with that said, let's get started. So the first question is, are you going to continue with what you're doing now as a career path? And if you haven't already watched my video about my new job, head over there now. So a lot of you will know that the answer to this question is no, I will not be continuing in this career or in this sector even. I'm taking a move into retail, into a large supermarket chain in the UK, where I'll be taking up a position as a food buyer, which is completely out of my depth. I have no experience in this job, but on my business management graduate scheme, I'll be learning the skills to work in business, lots of different skill types. I'll spend a year in one role, and then once that year's up, I'll move on to my next rotation and try another role out. And once the scheme is up, I'll then have the choice to move on to something new, stay in what I'm in, or maybe talk with my employer about what they think I would be best suited to. The next question is, do you handle tasks on your own or do you engage with your team? So I'll talk about my current job for this one. Obviously, I haven't started my new job yet, so I don't know exactly what that will be like. But in my current job, I work in a communications role and I create presentations for lots of different companies, and it is very team-based. In my role, I'm more of a consultant. That's my job. It's to communicate with the client and then communicate that idea back to the designer. So I will always be working with at least one designer to try and bring like my creative vision to life and the client's vision to life. So I'll jump on a call with the client, listen to what they want, I'll jot that down. I then might make a storyboard or write a script for a video we might be creating, or the script for the presentation that my client might be delivering, and then I'll take that storyboard and that script to my designer partner, and they will create the resources and the assets and design it nicely so it's ready to package off to the client. So it is a very team-based job, and it sounds like a lot of the time I'm working just one-on-one with another person, but that's not actually the case. Even if I am the main consultant doing the work on my project, I'll still get my colleagues, my teammates to check over my work, to make sure I'm on the right lines. If I get a bit stuck with what I'm doing, or I have a bit of brain blank and I don't really know what to do, what visuals to come up with, or how to write a script in a certain way, I will definitely ask my colleagues to chip in and help me with their ideas. Up next is, how do you manage the work-life balance? So I'd say I'm really lucky in this respect because my job is set hours of 9 till 5:30, and for the most part I do not work outside of these hours. Sometimes I might stay an extra half an hour or an hour if I want to get a project tied up and I don't want to leave it hanging, or there's a tight deadline that I need to meet for my client, but this is very rare. We tend to get all of our work done within the hours and I don't have to stay late, which I'm extremely grateful for. I know that's slightly different for a lot of graduates. They do work strange hours because they're trying to impress and they want to do well in their first job, and maybe this will be what it's like when I start my new graduate scheme. I'll just have to wait and see. But in the job I'm currently in, no, it's very set 9 till 5:30, and my employers are really flexible with that as well. If I need to take a little bit of a longer lunch break or I need to start earlier, I can leave earlier. So I'm really lucky in that respect. Next up is, did you feel shy when you started your job and had to talk to people for the first time? I would say definitely in the first few weeks I was quite shy, and normally I'm quite a confident, chatty person and sociable person. I think that's what my employer had seen in me in my interview, and Obviously in the first few weeks you're getting to know people you've never seen before, and it can be quite daunting, and I think I was the youngest person at my company. They weren't much older than I was, but they definitely had more experience than I did. But as things go, we were quite a young company in general, a lot of people sort of mid-20s, early 30s. That was a really good environment for me, I'd say, because we were definitely all on the same sort of wavelength, and just a few years ago they might have been in the same position that I was, fresh out of university and starting their first job. So I definitely found that they could relate to what I was going through and help me through that. But I did still feel very shy, and I don't think my personality started to come out maybe until a month into the job or a couple of months into the job, when I started to warm up to my colleagues. And now I definitely say I am my fullest self, my bubbliest self that I can be. And I definitely get the sense that it feels like I've always worked there and I've always known these people, because I do feel comfortable to be myself around them, chat about personal things, about what I got up to on my weekend, in morning meetings and things, or am I just coming back from the weekend. And I definitely feel comfortable enough to say, you know, I'm not sure about the way you've done this, and oh, I think it would be better if it looked like this. So I think it's so important to definitely feel comfortable around your colleagues, because then you can give your best constructive criticism and positive feedback and bring out the best in one another. Ooh, I really like this question. This is a good question. So it says, what is your advice for humanities graduates? I definitely feel like I could do a whole video on this question. It's very broad and there are lots of different bits of advice I could give for different things, and it depends what you guys would want to know. But I think general advice for humanities graduates is to keep going, be persistent with the job world. It can seem really difficult if you have friends in STEM subjects who already know what kind of jobs they want to go into, and I think there are a lot of roles in STEM out there at the moment, and it's a very, very popular field and it's a very lucrative field, and there are a lot of positions available, and it can feel difficult when you see your friends walking into jobs or getting higher salaries than you, or having a lot of choice when it comes to jobs. And I do think humanities, maybe this is a sweeping generalization, but I do think students who have studied humanities definitely have a harder time finding jobs, because the arts and humanities sectors tend to be underpaid or less paid than STEM jobs. There are fewer jobs available in this sector, or it's a lot more competitive. For example, if you're going into media or journalism or publishing, it's a very saturated market as well. And a lot of humanities graduates will be going for similar roles like that. So it's about making yourself stand out. Do as much as you can now to build your skill set, to put on your CV, to gain as much experience as you can, and try to work out in those early years of university what your interests are, what your passions are, and try to pin down that sector or job role you could see yourself going into. This doesn't have to be your dream career, I've said this countless times, but just have an idea of certain sectors or certain jobs you would like to try out. And you don't have to stick with this forever, but it definitely means you can focus your job applications in that sort of direction and save yourself wasting time on jobs that you maybe wouldn't find as interesting, or save yourself from applying to everything but not really having a passion for any of those jobs. This question kind of links to the last question, and it says, any tips for third year and life after graduation? I'm 22 and have no idea what to do. You are not alone. I was you like last year, I promise. And so many people are in the same boat, so don't panic. I think my advice to you is start applying for jobs as soon as possible. Grad schemes will start opening in around September time, so you need to get in there. Don't miss the deadlines. Make sure you spend this summer refining your CV and make sure it's ready to go. You don't want to waste those early crucial weeks of job applications trying to polish a CV. You just need it ready to go. Practice psychometric tests for jobs, and make sure you have a defined cut-off point when you're going to stop applying for jobs, because you can apply for jobs anytime and you can come back and apply for a grad scheme a year later, but it's a lot harder to resit your year or resit your third year exams. Like, these exams are really important. You've got to give it your best. So I think I said to myself in like February or March, right, I'm going to stop applying for jobs now and I'm just going to focus on my degree. If I haven't found a job at this point, that's disappointing, but I can't let it overtake my goals in achieving a good grade or in sitting my exams to my fullest ability and revising as much as I need to revise. So make sure you have a good balance between job applications and revision and study. The next question is, what jobs do your friends have after completing their English degrees? Obviously, you guys know I went into a communications role. I'll be moving on to a food buying role in retail, but I have lots of friends trying out lots of different things. I know a lot of English students do the law conversion and will follow a law career. I have friends going into teaching, which is maybe the more obvious one that you might think of, and do their PGCE qualification. I know people in media and radio, people pursuing journalism and publishing are really big careers that a lot of English grads move towards. I think maybe the more niche ones might be things like consultancy. It can definitely feel a little bit more difficult to get into those kind of jobs as a humanities student, but it's definitely not impossible. I think as long as you have strong analytic skills and you're quite logical and you practice in those sort of areas before you apply for the jobs, you have just as much chance as anybody else does. I know a couple of people who work in museums or art galleries. Some people are doing voluntary work or working for charitable organisations as well. I know a lot of students went into tutoring or like online tutoring businesses or teaching abroad on like sort of Chinese teaching schemes. I know that those are quite popular at the minute, going abroad to China to teach English. And a lot of people also tend to stay in academia and pursue masters or PhDs in English as well. But if you're unsure about what you want to go into as an English graduate or humanities graduate, I can definitely recommend heading over to the Prospects website or having a look at your university careers website and seeing what kind of careers are out there. There are a lot of careers that you just don't know exist. I mean, I never would have seen myself in food buying if you'd asked me about it, but you just need to put yourself out there, and your employer will hire you if they think your skills are matched to that job, and it doesn't matter if you don't have experience in it. That's why they are there to train you in that job and in those skills. Oh, the next question is, how did you cope with post-university blues? Now, I feel like this one was slightly different for me because obviously I didn't get the closure I needed after my final year. I didn't get my proper graduation ceremony. So when my third year ended abruptly before third term even started, I came home. I was sad for a bit. I was really sad I didn't say bye to my friends and I didn't get all of the celebrations afterwards, but I did decide to move back to my university city for 6 months in my new job because I knew I'd be working remotely the whole time, and I kind of just said to myself, I'd rather be in my university city, go and do the things that I never managed to do while I was there, see the sights I didn't see, go and visit my friends who are still staying on at university to do masters and PhDs and things, live close to them and still feel like an independent person as well. So I think that definitely helped me with the closure. I suppose that's more unique to me though. I think to help you deal with the university blues, you've just got to throw yourself into whatever the next chapter might be. I mean, every chapter comes to its end. I've ran with this metaphor. I'm an English student and the books behind me are like talk about book metaphors. But no, every chapter must come to its end, and this doesn't mean it's the end of the book. It just means you're on to your next chapter in life, and that's so exciting. And you can't cling on to university forever. You will grow up and you will move on, and you just need to cherish those memories and be glad that it happened, but also be glad that your life is moving forward and you've got new, more exciting opportunities coming your way. And there's nothing to stop you meeting up with your friends as regularly as possible. The next question is, how do you know you want to pursue a career in something? And I think it's difficult to know you want to go in a very specific industry or sector unless you're doing maybe a subject that leads to a direct vocation like medicine or law, for example. You might really know, I want to be a doctor or I want to be a lawyer. But for the rest of us, I think it is quite difficult to know what you want to go into, and you've just got to find a job that you think matches the skills you've learned from the degree you've done. Obviously, when you do your degree, you've already taken one step closer to finding that career path because you've narrowed it down to, I'm really interested in English and history, for example, which means I really like communicating with people, I really like writing essays, I like thinking in a structured way and pulling together pieces of evidence and putting it into that essay. And you can try to sort of decipher those skills and work out where they might be best fitted in the real world. And I think there is no real way of knowing where you want to end up or which sort of career you want to try out. You just need to go and try it. You will have some sort of inkling of, that sounds interesting, I could see myself doing that, or that sounds like something I've done before, or that sounds like something where I could learn a new skill which I'd be really excited or interested to learn. And I think that's enough to then pursue it, and if anything, it's sort of process of elimination, because you will definitely know which careers you don't want to go into, and you can work out from there which careers you do want to go into maybe. The next question isn't really a question, but it's sent in by the same person as before, so I'll read it out. And they're asking about starting salaries. People aren't really honest about this. Any advice you'd like to give? And I'd like to talk about my own personal experience of starting salaries. I think when we were coming out of the pandemic, I was applying for a lot of jobs, and a lot of employers, I feel, were taking advantage of fresh graduates who were struggling to get jobs because of the pandemic. I had a couple of companies who said, we won't take you for our graduate scheme, but we'll definitely take you for our internship. And it was a position I was overqualified for, and you know, I had a degree, and some of these internships only required that you had A-levels, and whilst it can seem like you're at a loss and you don't have anything else in the pipeline and you should just take it anyway because you can't find something else, I think you need to remember to know your worth. And if somebody's offering you a job that you're overqualified for and the pay definitely isn't what you're worth, then it's okay to say no and just keep waiting until you find something right. I know that can be really difficult, especially when you've had a string of rejections and you just want to take any job that comes along, but I definitely say don't settle. I think there's a good balance. Sometimes you do have to take a job that you know is a lower salary than you would like, but it's okay to just use that job to save, bide your time while you work out what you want to do, but definitely don't settle for something way beneath what you think you're qualified for. And in my experience, I've also struggled with my STEM peers earning a lot more money than I am, but I think that's something I need to accept as an English student that is trying to get into creative industries or arts and media industries, that any job I apply for in that sector tends to pay significantly lower than a STEM job does, and that's just the reality of it. The next question is, do you have a full-time job? Is it a long-term thing, or do you want to go back to school later? I suppose I've already answered this question. Yes, I do have a long-term job. No, it's not what I'm staying in for the rest of my life. You guys already know I'm moving on to a new job soon. And as for the question about going back into education, I actually thought I wanted to stay in education after I'd finished my undergraduate degree, and I'd said to my supervisor, I definitely want to pursue a master's. I can see myself in academia. I can see myself going down the PhD route and wanting to stay in academia for the rest of my life. And she gave me the best bit of advice that anybody has given me so far. And she said to me, you've been in education your whole life and you've never known anything different. So maybe go out, spend a year in the working world and see how you find it. And if you do miss academia and you do want to come back, then you haven't lost anything. You've gained a year of experience and you've saved money to be able to afford it. And if you do decide you don't want to go back into academia, then it's a definite gain because you know you haven't wasted money or another year of your life pursuing academia when you've realised the working world is for you. And that's exactly what happened for me. I realised I loved working, and maybe I was just putting it off because I was scared and I didn't know what I wanted to go into, and I just needed to jump in the deep end and try something and keep moving and keep trying. The next question is, what were the working conditions you were looking for in your work contract? I think for me, I've said this or hinted towards this already, but it was really important for me that I had set hours and that I didn't think I'd be overworked or taken advantage of as a graduate. You guys will have all heard the horror stories in the news about some big companies who exploit their graduates and expect them to work until 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night and still come in at about 7 o'clock in the morning the next day, and they don't eat and sleep. And I don't know how far true it is. I definitely think there is some hint of truth in it, even if it's dramatized in the news sometimes. But I do think a lot of graduates are taken advantage of because they're eager to learn and impress when they're young. So it was definitely really important to me that the company had a good culture, a good approach to work, a working culture, a sociable environment, and my current company that I'm working in places a big emphasis on good, strong mental health and looking after your mental well-being as well. So that was really important for me in a contract. And I suppose you can work that out by the company culture, if it sort of describes their ethos or their ethics on their website, what they look for in a candidate, and the perks they offer as well can also be a telltale sign of how much they value well-being of their employees. The next question is, any plans of moving out and working from an office? So yes, if any of you have seen my latest video about my new job, you'll know that I do plan on moving out and moving into an office. I'll actually be heading to London potentially. I mean, it's very likely the office is near London, so I think I'll be heading down there, living there and maybe doing a flexible working week of 3 days in office, 2 days at home. I am so excited to meet my fellow graduates. They'll all be my age. I can make some friends. It can be a more sociable environment than the last year I've had working from home. I can't wait to gain my independence back again and just be young and free while I can be. So yes, definitely plan on moving out and moving to the office, and the office looks so pretty. It's so cool. I was looking at pictures online and it looks a bit like a university campus or something, and it's really bright and spacious, and it definitely looks like an environment I could work really well in. The next question is it a big step going from uni to working in a job? I've actually already done a whole video on this, so head over to that video now if you haven't seen it already. But in summary, it's not as big a leap as you expect it to be, or you might think it is. Obviously, you're going into something you might never have tried before, but you do already have a bunch of skills in your backpack ready to pull out and use in that job. I might not have ever designed presentations before or written scripts before, but my writing skills from my degree, my confidence and communication skills, both my writing and my speaking skills, were really useful in the current job I'm in now. So definitely don't be worried about the leap. It's natural that you might feel out of your depth and it might take a while to adjust while you learn the tricks of the trade essentially, but you're definitely capable of it and you just need to hang in there and believe in yourself. The next question is, how do you keep track of finances? Any good tips? Now, in my first few months, I actually tried to keep a budgeting spreadsheet to make sure I kept track of everything I was spending. I kept all of my receipts. I did try an Excel spreadsheet and I did try actually writing it down in a physical book, and neither of these actually worked for me. I think it was good in maybe the first month to work out what portion of my wages went where, like what portion were bills and what portion went on food, what portion went on travel, what portion went on like leisure activities or personal enjoyment or little gifts for myself, and to see what money I actually had left over to save. But I think after that first month, I knew how much would be going out for my bills, I knew how much would be going out for my weekly food shop, and I didn't need to keep track of that so rigorously because it was the same most weeks and I was saving about the same each month as well. So my best method for just keeping track of my finances was my online banking app, where I could just scroll through and see what was coming in and out, make sure I was never going into my overdraft, make sure I knew what money was coming out of my account and that I wasn't overspending. But I suppose different methods work for different people. I know a lot of friends who use proper banking and finance apps, not linked to their bank account, but like money saving apps or tracking apps, but none of those really worked for me. The next question is, how was your interview session for the job? So I'll talk about both jobs for this because they're both quite interesting, but my first interview for my current job I'm in now was really exciting and creative. Obviously, it's a creative agency that creates videos and presentations, and they asked me to prepare a presentation about who I am and why I'd be fit for the job, and it had to be 5 minutes long, and they said sort of bonus points for something creative. So instead of just making a PowerPoint presentation or something, I spent all day, like something crazy like 12 hours, creating a stop motion animated video with lots of objects around my room to explain who I was and why I'd be the best fit for this role. And it went down a treat. My employers were really impressed by it. I think mostly because I put in so much effort, because I really did want this job. I was very keen and I wanted that to come across, and it definitely did. And in my last interview, it was actually a big assessment centre for my latest career, where there might have been, say, 100 people there. Obviously it was virtual because of the pandemic, but we all logged on and we had different activities to do in the day. Some of them were group activities where we'd be given a brief or a task and we had to brainstorm an idea together to tackle the problem or come up with a campaign for the company. And then after that, we'd have an individual interview one-on-one where they'd ask us questions about ourselves and our own skills, and then maybe more technical questions related to the job, and that was really fun as well. And I think the answers I'd given in my interview are actually the reason that I've ended up in the job role of fresh food buyer that I'm going to be going into, so I'm really excited to see what that's like. And the final question is, do you prefer study or work? And this is a really hard one because I loved being at Cambridge, I loved living with my friends, I loved learning. Like, that's what I miss the most, I think, learning all the time. I miss writing those essays as much as I complained about them at the time, and thinking in an academic way. That was really exciting and stimulating for me, but I don't miss the stress and pressure of it. I don't miss working late nights and working weekends. So as much as I loved being at university, I do think that chapter has closed now and I'm ready to move on and At the moment, I definitely prefer work because it just matches more where I'm at in life at the moment. I'm ready to move on and be independent, try new things, try new careers, and just keep moving. So yeah, definitely work. Plus the weekends, the best bit about work. I love having a weekend off. Anyway, that's the end of this video. This is exceptionally long. I feel like I'm gonna have to cut out so much when I come to editing it. I don't know, we'll see what gets to stay. But I want to keep in as much useful content as possible for you guys, because I feel like you guys need the motivation that I would have been looking for a year ago. You need someone to tell you to keep going and it's gonna be alright. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope a lot of these answers will have been useful for you. If you're struggling with what kind of career you want to go into now, or you're in a job you're not entirely happy in, or you're considering a career change, or you're in your final year of university and you don't know where you're headed next, this is just to say best of luck. You've got this. Don't worry about it. It's okay to not know what you want to do next, and we can all just keep trying to work it out together. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.